Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine Podcast Radio. Join us on our journey into the past, the present, and the future as we explore the relationship between technology and humanity. Together, we are going to find out what it means to live in a society where everything is connected, and the only constant is change. Knowledge is power, now more than ever. Imperva is the cybersecurity leader whose mission is to protect data and all paths to it with a suite of integrated application and data security solutions. Learn more at imperva.com. Nintex is the global standard for business process management and automation. The Nintex platform helps their clients accelerate progress on their digital transformation journeys by quickly and easily managing, automating, and optimizing business processes. Learn more at nintex.com. RSA Security offers business-driven security solutions that provide organizations with a unified approach to managing digital risk that hinges on integrated visibility, automated insights, and coordinated actions. Learn more at rsa.com.
Marco.
Sean.
Can you keep a secret?
I signed a document, so I have to.
It's under NDA, that's
I don't even know if I can be on this podcast. Do you release me from?
I'm gonna kick you off this podcast.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah, no, secrets are good, but I'm wondering if secrets are always good, or if sometimes we should be sharing a little more, especially when it comes to protecting ourselves.
I have the answer, but it's a secret.
It is a secret. All right. Well, maybe our guests today will be a little more forthcoming with some of their thoughts. And today we're looking at the topic of patents, more specifically technology patents, and maybe even a little more specifically cybersecurity / privacy patents. We'll see how far we go. Two guests joining us. We have Joanna Chen and Puya Partal. Thank you so much for being part of this.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
So folks know who they're hearing from as the voices come across. A few words, Joanna, about what you're up to in your role.
Sure. I'm Joanna Chen, and I'm an associate at Posanelli. I practice patent prosecution with a focus on computer science and electrical engineering. I've been practicing for about 6 years now, and so I'm kind of at this point in my career where I'm not just focusing on like the prosecutorial strategies and implementing on like a micro scale with individual applications, but kind of also how it plays a role when I advise clients with respect to strategy and protecting an entire patent portfolio. That being said, I did want to thank Puya, Sean, and Marco for bringing me into this conversation. Kind of play a role in enlightening your listeners who are interested in IP strategy, especially in the cybersecurity field. But, I also plan on learning a few things from myself from three of you. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
I love it. We say if we make people think we're doing our job, and I know I'm going to be thinking throughout this whole thing. So thanks for being part of this, Joanna. Puya.
Hi, my name is Puya Partal. I am a partner at Cypher Shaw. I do patent prosecution. Most of my practice is patent prosecution. I do some trademark prosecution and advising clients on their IP portfolios and strategies, some IP licensing, and anything else IP related that kind of pops up in the flow of a law firm, of a big firm. I've been practicing for 14 years now. Before this, I was a software quality assurance engineer at Symantec, which is where I worked with Sean. And
a few days ago now.
Yeah. I invented an ad blocker while I was at Symantec, and that kind of got me going into the world of patents. So I've been on both sides, the patenter and the patentee.
Yeah, I love it. And we're going to tap into both of those sides. And it's been fun and fascinating to watch your path along your career grow, Puya. So thank you for being part of this as well. So kind of the premise that I have here is that you may have caught it loosely, as we started this off, certainly there's value in protecting one's innovation, right? So somebody develops something and it's unique, and they want to extract the most value of that, value being money, market share, whatever it is, power. On the other side of things, we often talk about where innovation is perhaps stifled, or in the security space, protections are not as full or complete. And Marco, I know we've been talking about this idea that a flying car isn't possible without multiple components being brought together, and
so convergence of technologies that
exactly.
they need to come together for the real innovation.
So the big burning question is, and maybe license the answer, maybe this podcast is over, but are we stifling innovation? Are we preventing good things from happening because of intellectual property being protected under patent law? So I don't know who wants to take a first crack at that with some thoughts, and we'll see where this goes.
I can take a stab at it. I don't think it is. And on a day-to-day basis, we get clients that come to us with ideas, and we do a search on their idea to see if someone's patented it before or not. A lot of times the subject matter isn't patentable. Sometimes it is. And, you could say, okay, I give up. Or you could say, well, I'm going to improve on this and I'm going to make it better. Or I'm going to find how my invention differs from their invention. And the entire goal of the patent system is to spur innovation. That's why your patents are published, unless you have a reason to not publish them until they're allowed. So by the mere fact of publishing your patent, it causes other people to see it and learn how it's made and then improve upon it. So it does spur, although it gives you some protection and it prevents some people from entering your space, in the long run, it causes additional innovation.
Yeah, and I can add to that as well. I think you mentioned open source, and on the same lines, I think when there are a lot of non-practicing entities or patent trolls, using IP in a fashion that kind of people can deem as misuse, there are scenarios where larger companies have come together to kind of promote patent non-aggression, and especially in the space of open source. So I think, for the most part, when companies are happy with their IP and how it's being used, it can be a good thing. But then they also, patent trolls are an example of when the misuse can happen, and then kind of how the community can come together to kind of make sure that innovation isn't stunted by these individuals and companies.
Well, as we started this conversation, even before we actually hit the record button, we were talking about how things can be good and bad. It's just the way you use it. But there is also a function of, let's say, a function of the time. Now we live in a time where there is invention that are driven by invention. So technology it's actually bringing even more ideas, more concept. It's kind of crazy if you look back 50, 60 years from now. So I am curious to know how the patent laws are being adapted to this Moore's law of the acceleration of technology and computer power and so forth.
There is some catching up. It's a few years ago, there's case law that made it harder to get software-related patent applications. It's eased up a little bit, but the way around it, and there's a lot of myths around patents, is you'll read a headline, and I hate to use the term fake news, but it is, they'll say, oh, Apple just patented something, or Google just patented something, or anybody has patented this invention. You're like, how could they patent that? Because it seems so simple. There's like the example of the single touch from Amazon. And you can think, so a layperson will say, that doesn't seem like it's patentable. But when you go and read the patent, it's actually some really novel feature of the broader invention that's being patented. So it might be a tiny improvement upon it, or how to make it better. And that is what is actually spurring the innovation, because you find an improvement on something that's previously made. And so now you have that improvement, and then that improvement might cause some failure down the road, and then you improve upon that. An example that I've dealt with a few years ago is, if you've recall when you used to have Bluetooth headsets and they'd always drop your calls while you were talking, and that was because the uplink signal from your cell phone would interfere with the downlink signal from your Bluetooth, and they'd cancel each other out. That's an example of technology causing a problem, but then the solution to that becomes a patent, and then you improve upon that solution. So you're constantly, like Marco said, we're constantly innovating and adding ideas to it. And so the patent, I guess I haven't really answered your question of how we caught up to it, but
well, no, you are, but you kind of like, I want to pass the ball to Joanna now and ask how hard is to protect this patent when it's just one little details and from an external untrained eye, it just look the same exact thing.
Yeah, so I think from like a patent attorney's perspective, what we try to do is, even if we do a search, sometimes it's not going to capture the entire sphere of what is out there. And so all we can really do is kind of describe everything that the inventor has told us. And as long as the description is there, once we get to the prosecution stage, we can fine tune the claims to kind of pick at what we find based on what is out there that the examiner has found, to move the case forward to make it allowable. And in terms of like how this has to do with how to predict, kind of, especially when it comes to AI or like or software patents and the abstract idea issue, it is difficult, because I think when I first started, the 101 abstract idea issue, the Alice case just came out, and a lot of attorneys just was really frustrated because it became this black box of, we don't really know how to advise clients. And so I think a lot of what the attorneys I've worked with in the past is, describe as much as you can in those applications, and then unfortunately kind of just have to wait. You wait until the cases come out and more guidance comes out, and then hopefully your patent is still pending, and then you can kind of, change the claims from there.
And Joanna, and then maybe Puya can comment on this as well. So looking at this from, I have what I believe to be a novel idea. The two paths are, let me just build it, bring it to market. Hopefully it's unique enough. I can market and sell it to where I can grow revenue. Or I think, and maybe no research into, is this patentable or is this an existing patent, right? So there's that path. And then there's the path that we've kind of touched on, which is we think it's novel. We want to see if it's patentable. Well, maybe not as it is. So I'm going to fine tune it and incrementally make it better. And I take that path to, one, establish a new patent and avoid perhaps some prosecution from another patent that I might be infringing upon. So the question I'm leading to is, if I take the path where I don't even look, and I think I have a nice innovation, some novel idea, and I just move forward with it, how often do we see those innovations come to market that then step on the toes of something that's already been protected, and what happens in those types of cases?
Oh, I can start that. Well, if the owner of that patent is litigious and wants to really fight for their protection, which some patent owners aren't, then there could be an issue where they reach out to you. They could send you a cease and desist, and then you would kind of work with them to see if, like, you can have your patent attorney read the claims and see if they actually overlap, or and if their decision is that it does, either you can stop producing the product, or you can license. Those are kind of the couple of steps, kind of a couple of options you have at that point.
Yeah, because Puya, your thoughts on this? Because what I'm picturing is, I have this system that I built, and there's one part of it that I think is novel, integral to the system, but I don't really care much about that piece. But somebody else does. They've patented it. So now my system is effectively at risk of operating properly because of this one piece. So Joanna mentioned licensing. I don't know. I see this, and we just wrapped a podcast around ransomware. So a really tough problem for the cybersecurity industry to solve. And I can only envision there's something there that could be part of a system that would help us tackle the problem of ransomware as one example. And yet it's probably patented. Somebody can't use that piece to fully build it out. I'm speculating here. My question is, because of that process, are we preventing a system from being built or making it difficult for a system to be built? Because maybe that patent isn't going to be used to solve ransomware. It can only do so within this other system that's built, and maybe the two never shall meet, and therefore that problem never gets solved. That's kind of my theoretical view on it.
It's entirely possible. You have something that someone else patented, and they're not going to let you use it, and it might stifle some product that will save us from ransomware. Or there's COVID. The COVID vaccine is an example of, if someone had patented this and they don't want others to use it, we could stifle the vaccine from getting out. That's why I believe the polio vaccine was never patented. I may be wrong on that, but I believe that's the case. It's just the cost of doing business. And that's the $1 million question: is how do we stop people from? It's like when Superman became bad, and Superman, I think it was Superman 3. How do you stop that from happening? I don't know. It is you do your due diligence before you release your product. Try to license it or try to innovate around it. But sometimes you're stuck with your back against the wall.
Yeah, because when it's business, it's one thing, and I'll let you go in a second, Mark. When it's business, it's one thing, but when it starts, you use the COVID example. When it starts to impact my life, my actual health of my life, and maybe ransomware could impact my life as well. I don't know. I think it takes a different turn, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, as I previously mentioned about kind of the open source scenario, I think it's a very good kind of framework to look at, to see, kind of learn from how this community kind of built this kind of no fly zone. And it takes a lot of actors that are very active in that community to basically gather a bunch of data points and patent applications to basically strike down these types of bad actors. But it does take a lot of work, and so I think it's possible, but it's not something like a couple people can kind of do.
Well, with great powers comes responsibility, right?
Yes.
So let's throw Spider-Man in there too.
I have no responsibility.
So, here I love it because we're kind of picturing kind of like an apocalyptic situation, or dystopia, utopia, and how somebody with bad intention can really take advantage of this regulation if you look at it from a business perspective. So where do you draw the line on society? But I don't think there is such a line, right? I mean, if you're a business entity and you decide not to disclose something, I guess it doesn't really matter how many lives that could save. Is there anything you can do about it?
I think that ventures out of the patent world. I mean, for us as patent attorneys, our job is to get the patent for a client or help them get it. When it comes to what they do with it afterwards, I hate to say our hands are clean, but we don't really have influence on what they do with it. But as a society, I think you can influence what people do if there's a bad actor. I forgot what's that guy's name, the who was the biotech pharma boy guy who like jacked up the price for the Martin something. Mm-hmm. He bought the Wu-Tang out of that. Like, society applied enough pressure on him. I don't think he ever brought the price of the drug down, but it was on the right path.
Yeah. Yeah, no, of course, it's a question that doesn't really have to do with your job. You do your job, you do it right, and that's the end of it. But the question about morality always come to mind. So while we're in these crazy ideas of crossing the boundaries, what if artificial intelligence and machine learning start developing some really good ideas? Are we going to give the rights and the patent to an artificial intelligence identity? Do they have a copyright power?
Well, I know that there's a case that just came out, well, not just, maybe like a year ago, that came out that basically said that, AI cannot be a patent or like an inventor to a patent. So I think this is at least in the US. Maybe that's not the case in other countries so far, but that's been decided. Was that the only? I can't remember if you had another follow-up question, but for that one, for now, I think we can rest easy about that. I think
that's until the AI starts to define the policy. And they'll say yes, yes, we can.
we're going all the way. No, but I mean, really, it kind of makes me think. Apart from the joke, the responsibility for a car that there's an autonomous car and make a decision, who is the one that you can persecute if the decision has been made to save your life as the driver, the owner, or to save the life of the people in the street. Is it you as the owner? Is it the company? Is it the software developer? I mean, it become a very, very complicated area.
Yeah, one of the things I learned all the way back in law school that still stuck with me was with like a torts professor. And he basically said, like, his whole rule of who should have the liability is basically who has the power to change and make better whatever that situation is, right? So in this particular case, I would think it's the AI company. They are in charge of, the code and putting it out there. And so if you want to, again, how with power comes great responsibility. If you want them to change what they're doing, and then you should put that responsibility on them based on just kind of that thought. And so that's always stuck with me. And I don't know if that's everyone's thinking, but I think it makes sense when I heard it.
I think it does.
I'm going to change it a little bit here because I'm thinking on the topic of machine learning and artificial intelligence. There are countless claims of AI and ML solving tons of problems. And I'm just wondering, are you seeing patents that support the numbers of claims, marketing claims that are being made that this stuff is actually doing something unique and novel versus just some script or some I don't know, script is probably the best way to put it.
There are many attempts to try to patent those ideas, and my wife calls me the dream killer because obviously sometimes people come to me with their patents and then I say you can't patent that, and a lot of it is those ideas of this might not be like a machine learning example, but someone will come and say, okay, instead of Uber picking you up, it's going to be for dog walking, or we're going to have a chariot pick you up instead. I'm going to patent that. And it's like, you can't, something that's already invented or being done, you can't patent it. And if you just change the application, so you can't change Uber's technology to dog walking technology. But on the same accord, if the patent laws are written in a way where if something can be done by a human, and you're just applying a computer to it to speed up the process, it's not patentable. And that's what we always are driving home with the inventors is, okay, you have to show how you're innovating. You can't just say, now I'm applying a computer to this, speeding it up.
Yeah, I guess when you mentioned AI, one of the things that patent attorneys have been focusing on and making sure clients focus their attention on is if they can show a way that the computer and the technology itself is being improved. That has been through various case law has been shown to be a very good way to overcome this abstract idea issue. And so with AI, it's like, have you improved the trained model? Have you improved what data and features are being provided to this model, and how kind of like the features are being mapped or post-processed, like all of these different ways of improving the actual system. That is one way to get over the abstract idea issue.
And another thing with AI is we see a lot of cases where someone's saying, okay, this is improving the training process. But then you go back and say, how are you going to assert your patent? Because how do you know how someone else is training their system? You're not going to be able to open up their computer and say, or look at their code and say, okay, you're using my training system, my training invention to improve your training. So at the end of the day, you might get the patent on that, but how are you ever going to enforce it? So we always try to guide our inventors to say, okay, how is this detectable and how are you going to enforce it? Think of the actual application, not the training process when it comes to AI specifically.
Yeah, when you use the word system, I know you're talking, I'm picturing a machine or collective set of machines doing some learning and training. I'm going to look at this from, as we get close to the wrap here, from the bigger system. And I'm going to bring it back to flying cars. How do you approach something like that where there's an element within a flying car? How do you know that there's a component in there that's being used that might infringe upon a patent? And how do you get to the point where you can explode all the components to see that, yes, that element is patented, and we need to now break that apart to see that it actually infringes on the patent? Is that something you do as lawyers, or is there some other entity that looks at system-wide views like that?
It's usually an engineer will figure out how that this component is performing this act of the patent. And when you draft the patent, you want to draft it to one specific component. You don't want to, for example, if there's a base station and a mobile device, you don't want to claim both the base station and the mobile device, because then you're going to have to go after two entities. And there's a thing of divided infringement is a thing in patent law. So when it comes to the component, when you draft the patent, you want to focus on what the component is actually doing. So let's say it's the navigation system. So you don't want to claim, you want to claim that the navigation system receives information, does something with the information, and outputs information, or maybe controls something else to happen, rather than claiming a bunch of different components. So if you can show that, okay, I know if I input this information and if I get this specific output, then I can guess that they're infringing on my component. And that's the best way when it comes to drafting your patent. You know that something comes in, something gets performed, and something comes out. Then you can pretty much figure out if someone's infringing it by feeding that kind of information to your car or whatever component it is.
So I think, Sean, as we close here, I'm going to refer, my mind goes back to history again, and how it was a lot easier before, but still was...
Keep history a secret. Don't share it.
Well, if you look at history, we still have some issue, I think, in figuring out who really invented the telephone. And maybe because I'm Italian, I'm a fan of Marconi and not Bell. But, back in the days, you had to jump to really patent something. And there was a race versus exactly what Puya said. I mean, there may be 100 more people nowadays that are doing the same thing, then they get there without any intention or to copy someone else. But the information is there. It's unless it's an open source situation, and you really don't even know nowadays if you are, I guess, infringing somebody's patent. So I don't envy your job. I think that's the bottom line.
Never-ending stream, and when that stream locks up, you just put a call out and say, "Hey, that looks suspicious."
Yeah, I mean, do you guys think that there is something that is going to change, that is going to make your job easier? Like, I don't know, blockchain on patent, or?
I actually like my job a lot because I don't deal with other attorneys much, so that's nice. I get to deal with engineers most of the time, which is fun, and you get to see new and exciting stuff that's coming out. It's it's fun to be involved in the process and spurred innovation. I don't know if Joanna agrees, but I think she likes her job.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think patent prosecution and litigation are just two different beasts. Like prosecution, we're at the stage where, the inventors are excited about their invention, and we're just, we're not really thinking about, or we're not really, at a place where the inventors like worried about anything in terms of people attacking, and it's still very much building. We're at the building stage. I have done a little bit of litigation in the past, and I'd say I think I can't conceive of a situation where AI or any computer could be or blockchain could be really taking over a substantial portion of that job. But hopefully technology will make more menial tasks easier.
Well, I know I paid a fortune just for searching to see if some of my ideas were already patented. So if AI can help with that and cut that cost down, maybe there'd be more innovation. Well, I mean, this has been great. We're at the end here. I suspect there's many other directions we could take this. I'm still hopeful we'll see flying cars. It sounds like that's going to require collaboration with many people and entities that have protected components that wish to license and perhaps share their ideas so that can actually happen. That's just one example of many. And obviously we touched on cybersecurity. I think as things move closer to our safety, I'm also hopeful that patents and protecting them and prosecuting against infringers doesn't get in the way of keeping us safe. So hopefully ethics rule out and morals hold true, and we as humans don't be stupid, and we do the right thing.
Couldn't add any more.
It was a resounding yes there. Wow.
Well, you made such a beautiful close that you made us think. And as we always say to the audience, if this conversation that, as you can tell, was not scripted at all, but we had a good time having it, and we let our thoughts go free, and it makes you think about the issue, feel free to comment on our social media, and if you have any other ideas for where you want this conversation to go, just drop us a line. And Joanna and Puya and Sean, thank you so much. See you next time. Or actually, listen to you next time.
That's right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
RSA Security offers business-driven security solutions that provide organizations with a unified approach to managing digital risk that hinges on integrated visibility, automated insights, and coordinated actions. Learn more at rsa.com. Nintex is the global standard for business process management and automation. The Nintex platform helps their clients accelerate progress on their digital transformation journeys by quickly and easily managing, automating, and optimizing business processes. Learn more at nintex.com. Imperva is the cybersecurity leader whose mission is to protect data and all paths to it with a suite of integrated application and data security solutions. Learn more at imperva.com. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you learned something new and this story made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.